It is time for the second test of Rugby's greatest rivalry series in Cape Town. This is going to be such a big game of rugby. The teams have been released. The teams have been changed. There's been a lot of storylines going into this game. We're going to talk about all of it. I'm going to give my prediction as well. I think this is going to be probably one of the games of the series, one of the games of the year. Now, I thought last week was a very good game. I actually thought the Springboks had a bit of a dominant position early on, but failed to capitalize on that. But I think this game is going to be a lot different. I think the All Blacks have improved a few things. They'll be better in certain areas, and I really do hope the Springboks have also learned a few things and will be better in certain areas. But let's talk about the little elephant in the room right now. Handré Pollard out. Kurtley Arendse out, Sasha Ngomazulu going to the starting lineup, Cheslin Colby comes in, Ethan Hooker stays in, and of course, Manie Lebok to the bench. So, the whole Springbok team here, we have Oxenchair number 1, Malcolm Marks number 2, Wilco Louw 3, Etzebeth Nortje in the lock, Sia Khaleesi back in as captain, which I think is massive for my Springboks team. 7 Peter Steph Tutoy playing his 100th cap, I mean, an absolute legend, he deserves 100 caps. Number 8, the Bulldozer, Jasper Wester. Number 9 and number 10, Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu. Number 11, Ethan Hooker, 12, Dale Lindy, 13, Kriel, 14, Cheslin Colby, 15, Damian Willemse, and on the bench, Dion Fourie, Gerard Steenkamp, Thomas du Toit, Lodi Jager, Andre Esthuizen, Cameron Hannekom, Morne van der Berg, and Manie Lebok. So, a very strong Springbok team shows in, and you know what? I know Handré Pollard, they've said he's got a calf injury. Obviously, I don't think they would have chosen a team on Monday and then completely changed it without it being a valid reason. Of course, I think Cheslin Colby's one. I'm not sure if Kurtley Arendse is injured. I'm not sure if they just thought, okay, Cheslin Colby wasn't going to be fit, but now he is fit to play, so they're going to put him in. In fact, I was never sure really why Kurtley Arendse was in the team for this week since he failed his HIA last weekend, and I think that does mean that you are confirmed concussed, if I'm not mistaken, or you have to be out for a minimum of a week as a bit of a baseline to just check your symptoms and all that. I'm not too sure how it works with that. But that being said, I am happy with how things have worked out as a Springbok fan. Now, of course, I'm going to be doing this video completely neutral, completely unbiased. But I have to say, as a Springbok fan, from that perspective, I am very happy that Sasha Ngomazulu is in. But most importantly, that Manie Lebok is into the 23. I really don't understand why they don't seem to think Manie Lebok is one of the most important players, because he pulls strings so well. And I've seen so many All Blacks fans saying in the comments as well, online, they don't really care who plays 10 as long as it's not Manie Lebok. They know what Manie Lebok can bring, and I wish that some of the South Africans could see that as well, because he is such an incredible player. He's so instrumental to how the Springboks play. Think about some of the great things he's done on attack. He always puts the ball near the 5 meter when kicking out of hand. He is so accurate. He pulls the strings so well. He is such a general. But the reason why I'm happy he's not in the starting lineup for this week is because finally, it's back to Kobus Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu together. These guys played together at the Stormers. They played together for the last few years for the Springboks as well. They are currently the 9-10 combination with the most experience together. Normally, it's Grant Williams with Manie Lebok. Of course, this week it is Morne van der Berg. But Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu together, I feel a lot more comfortable with that than it would be Handré Pollard and Kobus Reinach right now, or just changing everything up the way it is. Because for the past year, it's been Morne van der Berg and Handré Pollard together. It's been Grant Williams and Manie Lebok, and it's been Kobus Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu. Now, when Kobus Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu play together, they understand each other a bit more. They got a bit more cohesion as well. I think they really do understand a bit more how to play together, especially since they play together for the Stormers. So there are a few Stormers players here. There are a few ex-Stormers players. I think I'm happy with the way things have worked out now. Of course, I'm unhappy that guy like Handré Pollard could be injured. I really wanted to see him play, because I actually thought the last season at the Bulls, he's gotten a lot better with his attacking ability, kind of playing to his strengths, kind of going away from that kind of premiership game from Leicester Tigers where it's just kick out of hand, boring play. He's getting a bit more of imagination right now. But I think for this test, we have to understand Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu can do some incredible things when he's on it on the day. Of course, we've seen the last few weeks he's not been on it. He's come back from an injury. I think last week the service to him wasn't the best. The forwards didn't really lay the foundation at the breakdown. Of course, at scrum time's a different story, but at the breakdown the forwards didn't really lay a good foundation for Grant Williams to get the ball out quickly and accurately to Sasha Ngomazulu. He had no time with the ball in his hands. I don't think he was that bad either. Hopefully this week the forwards can give a better base, just give him a bit more, give Cobus Reinach a bit more clean ball, a bit more time at the breakdown, that he can get the ball out a bit quicker, make decisions a bit quicker, and that Sasha Ngomazulu can get the ball, and the All Blacks will actually not be set yet. There will be space, there will be opportunities, but of course this is international level. The All Blacks did the job last week there at the breakdown to perfection. They're going to try come back and do the same thing, but I think really for this game, the guys you have to look out for in the Springbok team, it's got to be the front row, Oxenchair, Vilku, Low, Malcolm Marx. Can they keep that scrum dominance, and can the Springbok team actually capitalize on that? Also, looking at the loose forwards, Siya Kolisi coming back is absolutely massive. Now, don't get me wrong, Paul de Villiers, one of the best loose forwards in the world right now, on form, playing some incredible rugby. But what Siya Kolisi gives you is unmatched. This guy is so important to the Springboks, and I'm not just saying this because he's captain. Of course, I thought last week Peter Steph du Toit didn't really captain the team too well with regards to managing the ref. Siya Kolisi is much better with approaching the ref, much better with the players around him kind of not going to the ref and talking above him. But what Siya Kolisi gives you is big time moments. Thinking about those England games at Twickenham, smash Ben Earl, smash Maury Itoje, completely changed the momentum of the game. When Ireland toured to South Africa, destroyed, ran over Robbie Henshaw, one of the biggest bump offs I've seen in my life, also gave a try assist to Curtly Arendse. He does these things. He has a knack for being there for the big moments, and I think it's going to be the same this weekend. Siya Kolisi, very glad to have him back, very glad that he's leading the team, but it can't just be a guy like Jasper Wiese carrying over the advantage line. Siya Kolisi is a very underrated ball carrier, especially out wide in the tram, so I'm expecting to see a lot more of that. And I think Siya Kolisi as well is a very good ball player, one of those guys that's a very skillful forward as well. Now in the backline, it's going to have to be a big game for Dale Lindy and Kriel, because Quinn Tupaia and Geordie Barrett absolutely had their number last week. Of course, Rassie Erasmus did say in the press conference that he handled the substitutions wrong last week, where Easthuizen shouldn't have come on so early. It should have been Grant Williams moving to the wing, Reinach coming on at number 9, and not disrupting the flow and the cohesion of the backline. I think this weekend, if there was to be substitutions, I think it would be more tailored to kind of making smarter substitutions. I'm not saying it was arrogance, but maybe a little bit cockiness last week from Rassie Erasmus. But of course, all these coaches, none of them are perfect. I see people on social media kind of going against Rassie Erasmus now, which I think is absolute nonsense. I mean, he is one of the best coaches ever. You have to give him that respect, and no coach can ever be perfect. And you know what? You have to give credit to the All Blacks for putting the Springboks in a pressure position where the coaches and the players were making the wrong decisions, because that's just credit to how the All Blacks played and how Dave Rennie and his coaching staff approached the game. Of course, I think I'm very, very, very happy that Ethan Hooker's in the starting lineup, but does Curtly Arendse falling out of the lineup mean that Ethan Hooker is now there as the first choice winger? Is it now Ethan Hooker and Cheslin Colby? Of course, every single time Ethan Hooker's played for the Springboks, he's been outstanding. I don't think he's ever had a bad game for the Springboks, and to be honest, I've really, very rarely ever, actually I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad game. He went to the same high school I went to, so I know him quite well as a person. One of the nicest people you could ever meet in your life, so humble as well, very hardworking, but I've never ever seen him have a bad game. So I think that's the thing with Ethan Hooker. A lot of these guys at this level, some of them just have a different mindset, and I think Ethan Hooker is one of those guys. He's got an elite mindset, and I think he's one of those guys that he doesn't care who he plays against. It doesn't matter to him who he plays against. He will go out there to dominate. So either Curtly Arendse was injured the whole time, actually wasn't going to play because he failed his HIA, which I don't understand why you wouldn't just play the team you're going to play with regards to Colby there. So it must be something else that happened. It must be Curtly Arendse getting dropped or just not being suited in that position for this game. But either way, Ethan Hooker coming in now, that could be a big talking point going forward. I really do like Ethan Hooker on the wing. I think, honestly, in the future, Ethan Hooker will be the Springboks outside centre in the future. Just watch. In the next few years, he's going to be a very good outside centre. But moving on to the All Blacks, we have George Bower, Cody Taylor, Taro Lomax in the front row, Fabian Holland and Tupou Vai. He moves into the locks there. Simon Parker, number 6. Dave Rennie spoke about it. He is very good with his small defence. He's very hard working around the field. And I think what you lose in a guy like Josh Lord, you kind of get back with a guy like Simon Parker. So I think it's a kind of a like-for-like replacement. Of course, not exactly like-for-like, the ones that lose forward, the ones that lock. But regards to not set piece, but like line out and around the park, just open play, they do offer some very similar values around the field. While Tupou Vai can still play his natural ability, play to his natural fundamentals of just being a skillful player and being a nuisance to the opposition. Number 7, Luke Jacobson. What a player, what a toy he's having, what a season. Can the Springboks stop that guy at the breakdown? Because he has been an absolute problem. Number 8, and captain Ardi Savia. This will be one of the first times, or the first time this tour, that we see a Sia Khaleesi versus Ardi Savia going up against each other as captains. Of course, they are very good friends off the field, but you just know, I think if you've ever played rugby, you know, if you're a friend with a guy off the field, you go even harder at them on the field. So that's going to be very spicy, very fun as well. In the backline, Roygaard and Ruben Love make up the 9-10 combination, and I would say right now, Cam Roygaard and Ruben Love have a lot more cohesion right now, a lot more form than Kobus Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu. Of course, Reinach and Sasha Ngomazulu have played together for years now, so I think that they've been training now for a few weeks, and I think that kind of cohesion together, understanding each other, the way they play, the style they play will come back in an instant as well, because they've been playing together for so long. So expect the 9-10 battle to be a lot more competitive this week, a lot less disjointed from the Springboks side of things. But Roygaard and Ruben Love, these guys don't even need to talk to each other. They can talk to each other telepathically. These guys know how to play together. World-class players. Ruben Love has really impressed me this year. I'll be honest, when I first watched Super Rugby this year, I thought that Ruben Love guy is a little bit overrated. No, he's not. He's such a good player, and the one thing he can do, he can kick very well for the poles, which the All Blacks have been missing the last few seasons as well. Of course, there will always be a miss every now and then from those corner positions, but basically every kick he's kicking really close or getting over, so he is a threat there off the tee as well. In the back three, Leroy Carter, Will Jordan, and Damien McKenzie. In the centres, Geordie Barrett and Quinn Tupaia. Right now, I would probably pick the All Blacks backline over the Springboks backline, and I will be doing a combined 23 after this. Well, not after this, at the end of mentioning the teams, but right now, the All Blacks backline is playing some scintillating rugby. They are looking so dangerous, and you know what? You could put a Tamosi Tavatanawai there, you could put a Rico Ioane there, you could put an Anton Leonard-Brown there, you could put Imoni Narawa there, you could bring Josh Morby into the starting lineup, and they would still play the same way. There's some absolute ballers right now in that All Blacks team, and you know what? This All Blacks team right now is 100% the real deal. Yes, they won last week, and I thought there was periods in the game when the Springboks could have maybe sealed the deal or gone closer to seal the deal, but that's the thing with the All Blacks. They're going to stay in the game for the whole 80 minutes, and how many countless times have they done this to us? How many times countless times in my life, Springboks have been ahead. Last 20 minutes, you just know the All Blacks are coming back. And about 6 or 7 times, I can remember clear, 6 or 7 times in South Africa as well, the All Blacks find a way of coming back and eventually snatching victory at the end of the game. So with a team like this, with the All Blacks, with the way they play, they thrive in the last few minutes of the game. They thrive when the other team is tired. For some reason, this All Blacks team, they're always so fit. And even at the end of the game, when the other teams might be kind of blowing hard a bit, hands on their heads, this team just goes it to another gear, to another level. So can the All Blacks withhold the Springboks early on in this game? Because there is going to be a massive charge from the Springboks early on. And can the Springboks stay in it at the end? They looked a bit out of it, a bit tired at the end of the game last week. Of course, that could be a lack of rugby if you guys were rested the last few weeks. But can the Springboks stay in for it for 80? And can the All Blacks be in a position where they can still fight for a victory after 60 minutes as well? Of course, looking at the bench, Asaf Fuamua, Xavier Numia, Fletcher Neal, Patrick Tuipolotu, Peter Lakai, Kyle Preston, Anton Leonard-Brown, and Josh Morby. Those benches right there are very competitive. Normally, I think to myself, the Springboks bench is way better. I'm going to do a bit of a combined 23, but I honestly believe that this week, it's very, very close on the bench department. But of course, Cameron Hanekom does come in, a very good player to bring in. Thomas du Toit finally comes back. I think Zachary Porton has such a bright future for the Springboks. But Thomas du Toit is one of the best props in the world right now. You have to play him. I don't know why they didn't play him last week. Was it a bit of resting them? Was it thinking we can get past the All Blacks in game 1 without some of our best players? I don't know what it is, but you know what? We have to believe in our coaches. But that being said, this game this week is going to be so much better. But what do the Springboks need to do to win the game? What do the All Blacks need to do to win the game? First of all, for the Springboks, they need to be more clinical in the opposition 22. For the first time in I think years, they've averaged less than a point per entry when entering the opposition 22 last week. I think it was 0.5 or 0.6 points per entry, which is extremely low at this level. I mean, I think all the teams except for the Sharks, Lions, Stormers, Bulls have all averaged more than that against the All Blacks so far on this tour. So that was a massive worry. Converting pressure into points as well. We were in their 22. We had so many scrums, or the Springboks, I'll say. The Springboks had so many scrums in the All Blacks 22. Dominant scrums. I get going for the yellow card. But at the end of the day, they say this in basketball as well. The ball doesn't lie. And that being said, the ball doesn't lie. If you're trying to go for these things too much, eventually it's going to bite you. And it did in a very hard way when George Bauer and the bench front row came on for the All Blacks, won a scrum penalty. That's where the game flipped on our shoulders. There were 2 periods where the Springboks were in the opposition 22 for nearly 10 minutes, for about 5 to 10 minutes, twice in the game, left with 0 points. And that's where I knew, are we actually going to lose to the All Blacks right now? Are they looking like the better team? The last 20 minutes showed it. They 100% were the better team. Of course, for the All Blacks, what they want to do early on, they want to survive the scrum battle. I don't think it's about dominating the scrum battle here. You can't really fix those things within a week. It's pretty much impossible to fix those things in a week. But we've seen bigger miracles happen in rugby. But I do like the front row this week for the All Blacks. But the bench front row is where you can see the real impact. I think Dion Fourie, Gerard Steenkamp, and Thomas Tutoy going up against Asafo Amua, Xavier Numia, and Fletcher Neal is going to be an absolute arm race. So I think if there is going to be dominance at scrum time in the second half between the bench front rows, it's going to be because of the guys behind them. The locks, how they scrum, the loose forwards, how they scrum. Will the All Blacks team be ready to scrum like that at the end? Will they be able to kind of counter the Springboks scrum battle? Because if the All Blacks throughout the whole game can diffuse the Springboks scrum, then I do fear that my Springboks have been playing without an imagination recently. It's going to be very tough for us to score points because the way the Springboks attacked last week, one-dimensional runners, very inaccurate at the breakdown, very sloppy at the breakdown. You'd see beautiful carries by Jasper Visser, beautiful carries by Peter Steph Toy, but then it's the lack of the urgency with the guys around them. Luke Jacobson over the ball there, Ardie Savia, Geordie Barrett, a lot of turnovers there from those guys, and it's going to be the same this week if the Springboks don't tighten up and play a lot more as a unit. So last week, it looked a bit like a disjointed Springboks team from pre-Rassie Erasmus era, pre-Tony Brown as well. What I want to see from the Springboks this week is getting back to that kind of close-knit team where the whole team knows what they want to do in every area of the field, having a plan. And I think Siya Kolisi brings a lot of that experience and a lot of that kind of, he puts the plans into place a lot. You always see sometimes when the Springboks, things aren't going their way, attack might look a bit sloppy, then you see Siya Kolisi with a massive clean out or a massive carry or a very perfectly timed pass to at least put a guy over the advantage line. And I think that's the really good things you get from Siya Kolisi. Same thing with Ethan Hooker, good under the high ball, but if you really need him to, if the ball isn't going your way or it's just a bit scrappy, you can give him the ball, he will straighten up, he will make a few meters, and he will at least give you a platform to work from. So for the Springboks this week, I think they just have to be more of a unit, they have to attack better as a team, they have to all be on the same page, and they have to capitalize on points. I mean, this is the All Blacks right now. I've seen the world rankings, the All Blacks are now number 1 in the world, and I fully believe that they deserve it. They absolutely do. They've been playing phenomenal rugby this year, where I think the Springboks have not played a good game yet this year. I mean, even against Scotland, we can't really say the Springboks played a good game. We scored a few good tries, but as a game, we haven't played a good game this whole year. Halftime against England, they had a comeback. They were in the lead. A better second half. Against Wales, decent, but it was very scrappy. Against Scotland was in that game till the very end. Almost had a massive comeback at the end as well. So, and last week against the All Blacks, not the best performance. A few weeks before that, almost losing to Argentina in Argentina. So, I think this last few weeks have been a big wake-up call for the Springboks because right now, it doesn't seem like the Springboks are playing like the best in the world. And that's why the All Blacks now are number 1 in the world. So it is still number 1 versus number 2 in the world. But this All Blacks team, what they need to do to win the game, they have to survive the scrum battle. And they just have to play to their natural ability. Look, this All Blacks team is not going to try counter how the Springboks play. They're not going to try out-muscle the Springboks. They're not going to try out-scrum the Springboks. In fact, they are very smart. I think the All Blacks have been getting the ball out their scrums the quickest I've ever seen before in my life. They are so smart with the way they approach the game. And I think they're going to do it the exact same way this week. And you know what? I think the All Blacks still have a little bit left in the tank as well. They've got some attacking imagination where Springboks kick the ball for contested balls, All Blacks kick the ball long. The All Blacks know what they're doing, and I really do fear that this game could go 2-0 because if this game does go 2-0, there's no coming back. You can only draw. So it's going to be a very titanic battle, and I think the last 20 minutes of the game is where the game's going to be won and lost because you've got Dion Fourie, Gerard Steenkamp, Thomas Tutoy, Louis Diaga, who is a bit old but still a very good player. You've got Andre Esterhuizen, such an impact player. You've got Cameron Hanekom, who I think should have been there last week already. He's almost like a Kwagga Smith. You've got Morne van der Berg, which I'm actually quite happy with because he is a turnover threat, he is physical, he's a good defender, and I know a lot of people don't really rate him, but he's actually become a lot better as a rugby player as well. And of course, you've got Manie Lebok that can pull the strings for you in the second half. The Springboks have to use their bench wisely because the bench they've chosen this week is very strong. They have game-changing players, but they have to time it right. That being said, for the All Blacks as well, if they're under the pump at scrum time, under the pump in play, they can bring on those two guys from the Hurricanes in the front row, Asafo Amua and Xavier Numia. These two guys, if you're a Springbok fan watching this and you don't know about those two guys, I'm a little bit nervous about those two guys coming on. Xavier Numia is almost like, he seems impossible to scrum against. First of all, he's such a unit, but around the field, him and Asafo Amua, I fear that if the Springboks are disjointed on defense, I fear we're going to see 50, 40 meter plus runs from Xavier Numia and Asafo Amua. The way they are with their skill set, with their attacking ability, the Springboks have to be defending at their absolute best when those guys come on, because you've got guys like Fletcher Neal, Patrick Tuipulotu that can come on, really kind of be those solid players that hit the breakdown hard, that are high percentage players. They're not going to make mistakes. But then you have Peter Lakai, Asafo Amua, Xavier Numia, quick, powerful, skillful forwards that almost run like backline players. Asafo Amua is an absolute problem. He's such a beast. And I think if the Springboks aren't awake in those last periods of the game, I watched the All Blacks behind the scenes, and they even said, if you switched off for a second at international rugby, especially with these two teams, they are going to punish you. And I think for both teams, that is the case this week. So I think the All Blacks have a very good chance to win this game playing in Cape Town. I think playing in Cape Town is completely different than playing in Johannesburg. Now, I don't think Johannesburg is much of a fortress at all. In fact, I don't really enjoy that much when the Springboks play in Johannesburg. I actually prefer it when they play at Mbombela or Loftus Versfeld or Cape Town or Durban. In fact, I really prefer those stadiums. Cape Town is going to be a bit of an interesting one because there's so many All Blacks fans from Cape Town, but I also believe it's going to be majority, about 75-80% Springboks fans. But that being said, this All Blacks team, they've been in Cape Town for the last few weeks as well before going to Joburg. They're comfortable there. I think, honestly, this All Blacks team right now has a lot more cohesion than the Springboks teams. But it is up to the Springboks team to try and make it 1-1, make the series fun again. Because if this series goes to 2-0, unfortunately, I think there will be a lot of Springbok fans. I just know how it works. There will be a lot of Springbok fans uninterested anymore, and I do not want that. In fact, I will watch, even if it's 4-0 to the All Blacks, I will watch every single game and truly support my team. I just know that if the series does go to 2-0, that unfortunately there will be Springbok fans that do just call it a day. They'll stop believing in Rassie, which is crazy to me. They'll stop believing in the Springbok team. It just absolutely baffles me, because if you think about back in the day, 2016 and that, the stadiums used to be empty. I was still a die-hard Springbok fan, so I hope that there can still be a lot more loyalty from the Springbok fans if the Springboks do lose this game. But that's why I'm hoping that the Springboks can win this game. I'm hoping, in all honesty, I'm hoping that the Springboks either win this series or it's a draw, because I do fear if the Springboks do lose to this All Blacks team, that this All Blacks team is going to get so much confidence, and I think they might just win the World Cup. And I really do believe that this All Blacks team right now, they're young, they're hungry, they're energetic, they're full of such world-class skillful players. If they win this series, nothing can stop them. So I really hope that the Springboks this game can bounce back, but it's going to be such a good game of rugby. The front row battle, the loose forward battle, just get your popcorn ready. That's going to be amazing. The 9-10 battle, genius is there in the number 10 jersey. The best number 9 in the world, Cam Roygaard, versus one of the fastest scrum halves in the world, Kobus Reinach. The centre battle, the best two centre combinations in the world, Will Jordan versus Cheslin Colby. I think it's going to be Ethan Hooker versus Will Jordan, which I think is a very good matchup for Will Jordan and Ethan Hooker, because I think Ethan Hooker is a really good guy to play against Will Jordan. He's physical, he's big, he's a very smart defender as well. Cheslin Colby versus Leroy Carter, they play kind of a similar style of rugby, both physical, both hot steppers, both can do a lot of good things on the field. And Damian Willemse versus Damian McKenzie, the two Damians in the backfield, two of the best Damians in world rugby. Of course, the other one at number 12 there for the Springboks. So many storylines, so many talking points, and I can see with the time on the clock here, it's already over 20 minutes. I am absolutely rambling. So it is time for my combined team, and then it is time for my prediction. My combined team. Now, this will not be based on historic form, so I don't want to see people get mad about this. And also, give me your combined teams down below. Give me your predictions down below. I really appreciate all the support on the channel. If you guys do enjoy the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel go a long way. Every single comment I appreciate so much. This is going to be based on the form currently the last month or last few weeks here. So number 1, I'm going for Oxenchair. Number 2, Malcolm Marx. pretty self-explanatory that. Number 3, Volker for the scrum battle. Number 4, it's got to be Fabian Holland over Eben Etzebeth. I mean, Fabian Holland has been absolutely outstanding recently. I think Eben Etzebeth hasn't really been at his best the last year or so, so I'm hoping he can get back to his best. Number 5, I'm going to go for Ruan Nortje. I think Tupou Vai is a great player, but I think Ruan Nortje had a bit of an off game last week. But I mean, him having an off game and still racking up the tackle count, racking up the rucks there, I think he's a very important player here. Number 6, I'm going to say Luke Jacobson versus Siya Kolisi. I have to go for Siya Kolisi. Just for this, I think Siya Kolisi is such a brilliant player. Even when he played for a few minutes against Argentina, he was outstanding. Number 7, Pieter-Steph du Toit versus Simon Parker. You got to go for the 100 capper. You got to go for Pieter-Steph du Toit. Then number 8, Jasper Visser versus Ardie Savia. Based on last week alone, based on the recent form, I have to go for Jasper Visser. But those calls that, I think, honestly, it might actually be Luke Jacobson ahead of Siya Kolisi right now. That's how close it is. So, still 50-50 about that one. So many 50-50 calls here. Number 9, Cam Roygaard. Number 10 right now, Ruben Love. Easily, in my opinion. Number 11, I'm going to go for Ethan Hooker over Leroy Carter. I really think Ethan Hooker can be one of the best players in World Rugby. I want to see him in the number 13 jersey. I think he can play in the number 13 jersey right now and absolutely dominate at any level. Number 12, Geordie Barrett. Number 13, Quinn Tupaia. Number 14 right now has got to be Will Jordan over Cheslin Colby. And number 15, I've got to go for Damian Willemse. Looking at the bench, Asaf Fuamua easily. If you guys been watching the channel, you know he'd probably be in my starting lineup here. The other guy on the bench, they're going Xavier Numia over Gerard Steenkamp. Then I'm going for Thomas du Toit over Fletcher Neal. Then I'm going for Patrick Turpolotti right now over Louis de Jager. Then I'm going to go for Cameron Hanekom over Peter Lakai. That game against Argentina, Cameron Hanekom was absolutely phenomenal. That's going to be a very interesting battle, Peter Lakai versus Cameron Hanekom. I'm going to put Andre Esterhuizen as a bench player here directly against Anton Leonard-Brown. I'm going to go for Kyle Preston over Morne van der Berg right now. Kyle Preston, quick at the breakdown, very good service, really sharp decision making as well. Then I'm going to go for Andre Esterhuizen over Anton Leonard-Brown. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then I'm going to go for Manie Lebok over Josh Morby. Two completely different players. I think if you wanted to get more of an attacking sense, I got game-breaking players, probably Josh Morby, but Manie Lebok is such an underrated player. But now it is time for my prediction, and I'm going with South Africa to win this game, but by a very small margin. Realistically, I think this is either going to be South Africa winning this game, the scrums work for them, they take the points, they capitalize, they're a lot more sharp in the opposition 22, the breakdowns are more accurate, the team's a lot more cohesive, they look like an absolute unit then, they actually look like a unit, and they actually play like world champions. On the other side of that, I think the All Blacks might win by a close margin, or the All Blacks win by 20 points plus. This is either the Springboks just having a blip in form, and they go back now, they win it, they make it 1-1, or this is truly the beginning of the new era of the All Blacks and the decline of the world champ Springboks that has an older team. So a very important game here. I will always believe in my Springbok team. I actually was going to say last week that if the All Blacks lost, I thought they were going to win this week. I just think the Springboks are going to play with so much desperation this week. Will it be better for them? Will it be worse? I guess we have to find out. But I'm going with the Springboks winning by less than a try. It's going to be such a close game in Cape Town. I'm so excited for it. I will be doing a match reaction right after the game and player ratings for the Springboks and the All Blacks. This is going to be a fun one. Thank you so much for all the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.